Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth. This program features in-depth conversations with the leading names in the subjects of UFOs, abductees, the paranormal, panel discussions, and the very best and brightest of the next generation of writers and researchers. Meanwhile Here on Earth, the show breaking new ground in alternative talk with your intrepid host, veteran investigative writer and researcher, Peter Robbins.
Hello again, it is me. Welcome or welcome back to Meanwhile Here on Earth on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Should you miss the show, you can still watch live at no cost at kgra.com, or you can watch on YouTube, actually for the next few days. If you want to subscribe, use the name Peter as your subscription code, and you will get a 30% discount. That's right. What will you do with all the money you save is up to you. The first 30 plus episodes of Meanwhile Here on Earth are and will remain on YouTube either until the Earth is destroyed by a meteor, alien invasion, or the sun itself burns out. No monologue today because I am so looking forward to spending as much time as possible with tonight's guest, who is Dr. Oné R Pagán. He is a husband and father, as well as a biology professor, scientist, blogger, and writer. He is in absolute awe of the natural world, especially the fact that it can be understood through science and mathematics. He spends quite a bit of time explaining science to family, students, and essentially anyone within earshot. He also loves learning about nature firsthand through his scientific research. He has published original work in various scientific journals, including the International Journal of Developmental Biology, Neuroscience Letters, Toxicon, Neurochemical Research and Pharmacology, Biochemistry and Behavior, among other publications. He holds an undergraduate degree in natural sciences and a master's degree in biochemistry, both from the University of Puerto Rico, and a doctorate in pharmacology with a strong emphasis on neurobiology from Cornell University. His website is baldscientist.com, and it is a pleasure to bring on tonight's guest, Dr. Oné R Pagán.
Hello, Peter. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor and a pleasure.
The feeling is mutual, my friend, and you are about 40 minutes from Philadelphia as we speak, as I recall, west of Philadelphia?
Yes, a town called Westchester.
How long have you lived there?
About 16 years, since 2005.
But that is not where you come from. Let's jump right into it, and let me ask you, where were you born, Oné?
Okay, I was born in Puerto Rico, born and raised in Puerto Rico. I'm sorry I don't look Latino, I don't look like Ricky Martin, nothing like that. But I was born and raised there. Perfect. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Did you grow up in San Juan or a city or a large concentration of people, or out in the countryside?
No, it's near San Juan. It's a suburb of San Juan. It's a town called Carolina. Actually, I grew up between two towns, Carolina and Trujillo Alto.
Got it. And any siblings?
I am the oldest of 5 siblings, and everybody else is back in the island. I'm the only one who jumped the proverbial pond. Are
you able to visit fairly regularly?
Well, last time I was there was in July because my niece was getting married, and I got it's been like 5 years since I've been there. But I got to see my mother, my siblings, and because in 2016, after that, there was the big Hurricane Maria that devastated the island. So, I couldn't go there. Then COVID came. But I got to see almost everyone in July.
Was your family particularly hard hit by this massive, horrible hurricane?
Thank heavens, no. I'm being a little selfish in that sense because I mean, nobody lost their houses or, and thank heavens everybody was well. And we kept sending stuff like boxes of virtually every single thing that you can imagine.
When you were growing up, did you spend time in the countryside as well as, in the equivalent of suburbia there?
Well, nothing is very far away in Puerto Rico because it's like 100 miles times 35.
Yeah.
So, yes, I mean, my parents are from right in the countryside, right at the center of the island. So I know the places. And, of course, the beaches they have no pier elsewhere.
Was it a traditional family like I grew up in, where originally my mother was what they used to call a homemaker with 3 children, and then went on to volunteer work and a career? Or did both of your parents work?
No, it was pretty much like you described. My dad did the actual, for money work, and my mom worked more than anybody else. That's the main idea. And actually, I don't know how she did it because I'm the oldest of 5, and in the 60s they had it like one after the other. Okay, so when I was 4, my 3 brothers were 3, 2, and 1. Okay, and my mother, like by the time she was like 23, she had 4 kids.
Wow!
I don't know how she did it. Yeah, I really don't.
I think, having never been a parent, it still occurs to me that one of the most challenging jobs in the world is raising a child or children who are equipped to be self-sufficient, happy, of goodwill, and there to be an asset to other people as well. Just from your family photographs, that's my sense of the children that you raised.
Yeah, no, we had a great childhood. My parents were, of course, I'm a tad biased, but they are wonderful people. My dad left us in 2009, and I still miss him terribly. Let me tell you, I mean, I would like to think that anything good that I have done with my own children, it's because of the example that my dad gave me.
Wow. Did you grow up in a house where religion was a big part of your life, or more a secular reality? Because at some point, something set you in the direction of science and nature. And I'm curious to know what that might have been, if it was a specific thing or a general thing, and about how old you were.
Well, there's two different aspects about that. I was raised in a strong Catholic, Roman Catholic background. And I really don't know where my affinity for science came from. I think I'm a mutant because there's nobody in my family who actually has this attraction for science. Everybody's hardworking people. My brother has a master's in statistics. I mean, but I'm the only scientist. And there was never any doubt whatsoever that I was going to end up doing something scientific. Just to give you an example. I don't remember the story, but my mother tells me that I couldn't have been more than 4 years old. I asked her whether God created microscopes. Okay, so I wish I'd remember, but she told me that she said, no, he didn't create microscopes, but he gave people the intelligence to figure things out, to invent things.
Wow.
So
what a gift.
Yes, yeah.
That's a smart mother.
That she is.
Culturally, did you grow up with a television in the house, or did your family go to a movie theater sometime? Did you listen to the radio?
Oh, yeah, all of the above.
Okay.
All of the above, yeah.
Did you have, growing up, any favorite television shows out of curiosity?
Oh, well, anything science fiction-y. Star Trek. It's always been a big part of my life. And I've always loved to read in those sense. So I love science fiction and, of course, science. And we'll have plenty of time to work about the science. But science fiction is, I cannot even begin to describe what it means to me. It's a way to actually escape so many things, and to dream.
That was my next question. About how old were you when you mastered reading well enough that you could take on pretty much any book beyond overtly children's literature?
Well, I was pretty young. Because that I've always been a bookworm. It's my nature, and I think I cannot put an actual age, but I was pretty young, and I never stopped.
Were you the first person in your family to attend college or university?
On my mother's side, yes. On my father's side, he has a sister, actually with a master's in statistics too. Yeah, but I was kind of the trailblazer in my immediate family. Yes.
Yeah. With the tremendous cultural influence that America exerts on the world, in great part through its films, which give often very idealized images of America, very romantic images, as well as more contemporary films that, are harder edged and more clear-eyed. At what point do you remember being aware that although at the time Puerto Rico was a protectorate, so to say, I think that was the word that was used, of the United States, and there was an affiliation, but that there was this monster country, to the north of you? At what point did it capture your imagination enough that you thought, maybe I would like to see this place or maybe live there someday?
That has always been implicit in our culture. As you well know, the short story is that in 1898, there was the Hispanic-American War. Spain lost. The U.S. took over a bunch of territories, including Puerto Rico.
Yep. Legally,
there's no Puerto Rican citizenship. My citizenship is American, but my culture is Hispanic. So that's even weirder. So we can send our own teams to the Olympics, and something as quote unquote silly as Miss Universe, we have our own candidates. So it's interesting, but as all politics are, it's something that is best, treat with a little distance.
Cultural influences fascinate me. And when I was coming of age, a Broadway show was transformed into a musical. And it was one of the most electrifying musicals I had ever seen. And I thought it translated very well to the screen. And it involved kind of a caricature from a innately New York American point of view of Puerto Ricans. And that was West Side Story. You're familiar with the film?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you remember first seeing it and thinking, whatever your feelings about it, but this is an American romanticization of Puerto Ricans, in New York?
Yeah, I immediately recognized the differences, but I also recognized the affinities. The affinities. I guess that I was aware of being different, but I embraced that differences.
Yeah.
And it was only later when I actually started college, because prior to college, I had this idea, okay, I want to go into the natural sciences, that's fine. I want to be a medical doctor. But that was the only alternative. I started taking courses. I learned about this thing called a PhD. And I learned that there were many universities out there that would be able to offer it, as well as in Puerto Rico too. But I began to, dream about coming to the States to get my degree.
Your first degree was a undergraduate degree in natural sciences, which I guess would be comparative to a liberal arts first year for somebody that's not sure where they want to go in their higher education. But your master's degree was in biochemistry.
Yes.
What made you want to focus there, and why is this an exciting area of study for you that still consumes you to a great degree?
Well, it was serendipity at the time. I've always liked biochemistry because that's one of the things that my wife teases me about. She's also a science major. She's a medical technologist. But my things were like biochemistry, genetics, things like that. She loved human anatomy, microbiology, all these type of things. But anyway, my first degree, again, my bachelor's was in general natural sciences. I took the usual things, but I also took astronomy. I took computer science, all these type of things. Then I graduated, and I was a high school teacher for a couple of years. And then I found a position as a technician at a medical school in Puerto Rico called the Universidad Central del Caribe. So there I began working, and my supervisors, who became my first actual scientific mentors, the people who actually trained me in research, they saw something that apparently I didn't see myself. And they gave me the opportunity to do my master's there. So it was biochemistry because I was working in a biochemistry department, but I just happened to like it anyway. And I have a couple of stories for you. The person with whom I work most closely with, he's Dr. Richard Hahn. He's a native Oklahoman, okay, a medical doctor who met a Puerto Rican lady, got married. He followed her to Puerto Rico and stayed there. Okay. Do you happen to remember the Flintstones?
Yeah.
Okay. You remember Barney Rubble. You know Dr. Richard Hahn.
I know of them.
Yeah. And I swear to God, his wife's name is Betty. I mean, and he was the person who actually told me to design an experiment, to run proper controls, to be precise and meticulous with my data. So he is a debt of gratitude. And to this day, we still get in touch with each other. And what can I tell you? I mean, it was a blessing having him and others in that university.
At some point, you decided to lift up your roots, take your family, and enter a doctoral program not far from me, in fact, just up the road, allegorically speaking, in Ithaca, New York at Cornell University, certainly one of the top 10 universities in the United States. So first of all, congratulations on being accepted. This is
Thank you.
Not an easy school to get into. And what was it that first turned your attention to Cornell and wanting to pursue a doctorate in pharmacology?
This was, again, serendipity. I mean, there's so many improbable instances that, I don't know, but the point is that my mentors in Puerto Rico, they collaborated with a professor at Cornell University, Dr. George Hess. And he usually went to Puerto Rico, I suspect because of the weather and the beaches and everything, but he also collaborated with my advisors.
Yeah.
But along the way, he liked to recruit Puerto Rican students to go work with their doctoral degrees at Cornell. So I was one of them.
Wow.
And I was fortunate to get a scholarship. And essentially, I mean, my wife and I talked it over. I was 35 at the time. Okay. And I always wanted to do it. So we went. Our youngest son, Andy, was born in Ithaca, actually. He's a native Ithacan.
What an incredible cultural change, not just in Ithaca itself, which has been a college town since the late 1860s. It is progressive by most definitions, although I found over the years it's a very interesting mixture of conservatives and liberals, basically, with a very high percentage of people, whether they have a high school education or 3 PhDs, they read and they stay aware of politics. Also, before it was trendy or, kind of more popularized, recycling, composting. It's a climate with a great deal of free enterprise opportunities.
Yes.
One of my favorite statistics about Ithaca, New York, is, I think, per capita of any town in America, it has the highest percentage of PhDs living here, earning their living having nothing at all to do with what their degree was. And
yeah, I hear you. But you may not be too surprised with one of the things that I miss the most about Ithaca, the book sales.
I'm not surprised, because for me, that is one of the high points of my year in May and October.
Yes.
And I'm still kind of buzzing from last month. For listeners, this is worth taking a digression for. Libraries all around the world are stressed out. And with more and more federal funding being cut back every year, there are library sales. Most of them are, selling books from the building or something. Here in Tompkins County, our local library started one years ago that just got so popular that they ultimately, with some help from a generous donor, were able to purchase a warehouse on the edge of town, huge, maybe 10,000 square feet, fill it with bookcases, and with volunteers working like 50 weeks a year. And those of us who love reading and love books and are building our libraries, but of course, bringing books to them for resale, twice a year, they open it for 3 long weekends in a row. And it begins usually with about 250,000 books, everything from used paperbacks to highly collectible first editions. And I mean, there are lines sometimes around the block.
People come, if I may interrupt, you know this as well as I do, people come from all over the country and they camp the night before they open.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my people right there.
You and me both. And you see some of the ill-gotten gains on my shelves behind me. They've helped me build a wonderful library over the years. But they also, they have become so successful that they now help libraries all over the county, not just the public library here in Ithaca, which is a great library. I mean, used booksellers come here and literally back up trucks. And every day for the 3 weeks, the price drops on all items. And the very last day, you can leave there with a shopping bag filled with books. Anything you can get in that shopping bag is $1. It is such an inspiring situation. And maybe we can time your next visit to Ithaca for May or October, and you can bring a truck.
And there's even so many treasures to be found in these places, because I have a couple of books that apparently were donated by Nobel Prize winners. Okay, and they sign it, and this is a Nobel Prize winner. I have this book. I'm sorry, but with me, I get enthusiastic. Okay, I still have a few of those.
Yeah. We are both brother total book geeks, and I think I received my first book signed by an author when I was probably about 14, a gift from my mother. It was a collection of Ray Bradbury short stories, and he had a big bold signature. And the thought that this writer, whose work I was enjoying so much, had held this book long enough to write his name in it was quite electrifying for me. And the upshot of that is, as a bibliophile, aside from my UFO-related library, I'm sure I have several hundred books that are signed or inscribed by authors. There is just something about the romance of that I find so compelling. I had another question for you in your relationship with this part of New York State. You are coming from Puerto Rico, one of the most idyllic, for especially us Northerners, beautiful, natural, warm landscapes in North America. And you come here and you're going to Cornell University in the dead of winter on top of that hill where the wind chill factor can be 30 below. And how did you not have times where you said, just kill me now, God, I'm ready, because this is nuts?
Actually, it was quite the contrary. Both Lisa and I enjoyed it immensely. We've never seen snow before.
Oh.
And we remember, just as today, we used to live in one of the apartments by Trip Hammer Road.
Yeah.
And the first big snow that came, we turned off the lights of the apartment and just went to the windows and we held each other watching snow fall down.
That's wonderful.
It was, magical.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. I love it up here, although I will always, in my head, my home is New York City, but I feel very lucky to have my home base up here. And this wonderful, highly cultured town just 5 miles down the road. You have written 4 books, and one of them is the last one on autism. Is that only available as a audiobook, or is that also available in print?
Okay, the last one is a short story, a science fiction short story.
Yeah.
And it's available online just as an ebook. It's very short. And it's basically the fantasy of a father. Okay, I have 3 kids. My daughter Vanessa and Reynaldo. Vanessa is 30. Don't tell anyone. Reynaldo is 24, almost 24, and Andy the Ithacan is 20. And Reynaldo, he's a delightful kid. He's also autistic, and he will talk your ear off about the Olympics. He will, but he has limitations. So I had this fantasy about the idea of being able to be with him and for him for the rest of his life. As a parent, that's a difficult proposition, but being a science fiction fan, I came up with this fantasy of which I would do in a split second. That at some point in the future, we would be able to upload our consciousness into a computer. In my fantasy, I uploaded in a robot that my son in the story does not know. It's my consciousness, and something happens.
In doing research for this program, one of the things that I so admire, respect, and have affection for about the way your mind works is that it is all over the place. And we will talk a little about your scientific approach to the question of truly anomalous UFOs, UAPs later in the program. But as somebody who is unschooled formally in a lot of the natural world, but loves nature and has had real contact with it, for most of my life, even if in the center of New York City, getting myself lost in Central Park when necessary, or saving grace in the soul of that great city. But each one of your titles deals with such a different area of the natural sciences. And your science fiction novel, it really touched me. And I want to just read a paragraph from your introduction. Like any parent, I want to see my children happy with lives of their own. Sadly, when you have a child with a disability, this dream of independence is oftentimes not an option. A virtually universal worry of any parent of such a child is what is going to happen when we are no longer able to take care of them. What would be of my child? Will others treat him well? Will he be safe and respected? Will he be loved? Quite frankly, these questions terrify me and oftentimes keep me awake at night. As a writer, there is no bullshit. You go right to it. You come from the heart. There is no wasted words, and your humanity comes through at every point. But this is unlike any science fiction story I have ever encountered. Not that I'm a huge science fiction fan, but still, it is unique and special and filled with, human grace and beauty. A very special story.
Thank you. You're making me misty-eyed for real. Thank you.
Well, you make people that way when they read this. I want to talk a bit about each of your books through the show.
Sure.
And the way you found me before I found you in this world. I am honored that you are a listener, regular watcher of our show here, and you know my work from before that. But it was only months ago that I came upon an announcement for what was going to be your newest book, and I was stopped cold. First, because even though it deals with a very serious scientific subject, and when one thinks about it a little bit, a logical one. The title completely caught me off guard, and it is Drunk Flies and Stoned Dolphins, a trip through the world of animal intoxication. My advanced copy, inscribed by the author, which I have read and enjoyed very much. And as somebody who came of age in the 60s, I have been a drunk fly and a stoned dolphin at different times in my life. And it's such a simple jump to say, oh, of course, why wouldn't animals and even insects enjoy altered states of consciousness, being high, being a little drunk? And once you get past that aha moment, it really was a journey. And it's like re-meet this animal or bug that you thought you knew when it's partying. And I thoroughly recommend it. I mean, you don't have to be a fan of any kind of genre or reading or have a interest even in science in general to find this book as enthralling as I have. So I wanted to talk to you a bit about it.
Absolutely.
Where did the idea come from for such a unique title?
Well, serendipity again. The book came about as a direct consequence of my own scientific research. I do pharmacology, but I use a specific type of animal called flatworms or planarians. And the fascinating thing about them is that many species, those are the ones that you can cut their head off and they will regrow a new head. But they have a relatively complex brain for a worm, okay? And they are able to regenerate their brains correctly. Can you imagine if we ever learn how to do that? Wow. People with brain damage because of an accident, okay? Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson, any type of neurological condition, okay? If we learn how to do that, I mean, there will be so much suffering that can be avoided. But the special nuance that I bring to the proverbial table is that I do pharmacology with them. Planarians are usually popular in regeneration and developmental biology research for obvious reasons. But through a series, again, of improbable events, I'm doing pharmacology with them. And not only pharmacology, but pharmacology of abused drugs, okay? We have tested nicotine, we have tested cocaine, alcohol, some other compounds, and we try to come up with ways to kick the drug out of the worm, as it were. And we have identified several compounds. Okay, so let's put a pin on that, because then when I began writing books, we can talk about the process later on. The idea for this one came, again, as a direct consequence of my research. Well, I have drug flatworms. What other animals can be, subject to intoxication, okay, by themselves or by humans? Many times we forget that we humans are part of the animal kingdom. So it's not surprising that, for example, a fly can get drunk. It would be surprising if they wouldn't get drunk. And then once I began learning about it, I had so much fun, non-pharmacologically, but so much fun learning about the multiple types of animals that not just apparently seek intoxication for pleasure. There's a couple of stories about wallabies, the tiny kangaroos, but many animals use compounds for medication. In fact, there's a whole school of thought that proposes that we humans originally learned about natural medications from animals.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, go ahead.
Essentially, right now with the legalization of marijuana, THC in state after state, and New York State kind of at the threshold of fully activating what under Governor Cuomo and previous governors had either not been considered or running around with. Under our new governor, I, for one, am hopeful that clinics will soon be readily available for both medical and recreational marijuana. again, there are these two categories, and you cite them in the book as well. Some natural instinct directs creatures and humans, especially a history of really indigenous peoples around the world on, well, not necessarily, to certain herbs and roots and natural ingredients that are at least as effective as, some chemical compound manufactured by a pharmaceutical organization, and that animals seek them out in these two directions as well in the natural world, for self-healing and for recreation.
Absolutely.
And in the world of recreational enjoyment, let's talk about just 1, 2, or 3 examples you cite in the book. I don't know anybody that isn't drawn to, who even spends a moment learning about dolphins, the worst of which is probably better than most people in this world in terms of their intentions, temperament, sense of humanity, for lack of a better word. But dolphins enjoy being in altered states. Can you talk a little bit about dolphins relative to this subject?
Okay, so that was kind of one of the most frustrating parts of the book for me to write, because of again my training. I am fastidious when I am documenting what I say, and of all the examples that I wrote about in the book, that was the one with the least amount of scientific evidence towards it. So, but it was just too good to leave it out. So the short story is that some years ago, there was a documentary crew filming underwater, and they were filming a pod of dolphins. And they noticed that they were passing along each other a pufferfish. This is the actual pufferfish that puffs up, as a mechanism of defense with spikes and everything. But they have a secondary mechanism of defense, the presence of a really bad toxin, tetrodotoxin. Okay, so the people who were filming them hypothesized that the dolphins were getting intoxicated by the toxin in the pufferfish. Some researchers, they may say that, but again, as we will see later on, I'm open to all possibilities until they are, science does not deal in absolutes, despite of whatever fame scientists have. We don't know enough about the pharmacology of dolphins. It may be that they are so much bigger animals that they can get intoxicated because, for example, in Japanese culture, there's a delicacy called fugu.
Yes.
Okay? And one of the main dishes is raw pufferfish. And I've been told that one of the attractions for people is that they feel like a tingling in their mouth and their tongue, because it's more or less the same tingling that you would feel when going to the dentist. Okay, so we're going from dolphins to pufferfish to fugu to dentist. Okay, so that's how my mind works. You characterize me very well. The same receptors through which tetrodotoxin works are the same receptors in the nerve cells that are affected by local anesthetics. Yeah. Who knows if dolphins like that tingling sensation? Okay, so we also have to be careful about not personifying dolphins, because, again, there's an old problem about, I forget the name of the philosopher, but he posited a question: what is it like to be a bat? Okay, because we perceive our world. Most of us were visual people. Okay, but I cannot imagine how it would be to image the world through clicks and echoes. I cannot even begin to imagine how a dog sees the world through the exquisite sense of smell. Okay, going back to dolphins, they use sonar. They actually have in their forehead. Actually, the structure is called a melon. Okay, and they actually use like sonar, and they are able to image like that. So I don't even know what I'm thinking most of the time, let alone what a dolphin is thinking, or a fly, or a, you know.
Yeah, you are very responsible in that you write with awe and humor sometimes, but you are also very careful to parse what you know with absolute certitude and could prove in a scientific court of law, what you suspect, what you think may be the case, what you are frustrated, like in this case, that you cannot break through and have a dolphin testify to, how it feels about a certain subject. And for me, I would rather read a book like that than have somebody tell me things and me believe them because they have a PhD, but that they are saying and maybe not able to prove, in a laboratory. One thought you set off for me, though, in the pufferfish, the poison in them is not just toxic, it's incredibly toxic. And it is also considered a delicacy in Japan. The chefs that prepare them, there are very few that are trained, certified, and qualified to completely remove, that poison sac. And they are very expensive, in restaurants. But again, Japanese people love them as a delicacy. I remember when I was there going to a restaurant that offered them and thinking, maybe not.
Yeah.
And then again, there are a few restaurants there that still serve whale, which horrifies most Japanese, but there are a few that still hang on.
Yeah.
Be that as it may. In scientific thinking, in a lot of research, for me, working so long in the field of UFO studies, you get very into an aspect of it and you realize, I must stop here in a way and learn more about a tangent that will help me think this through. And so you start to read books on a related subject or an unrelated subject that does help you figure it out, and you continue on. Then you kind of stop at another point and say, I need to know more about this to continue with that. Your books, one leads to the other in a very logical way, which also for me is something I find myself very attracted to in scientific thinking, that the subjects can be on the surface completely unrelated, but in fact, they're gun sight straight in the mind of the author, researcher, investigator as having led directly from one point to another.
Thank you for your kind words, and I think you capture what I'm trying to say, and it can be boiled down in two main ideas. Okay, the first one: don't underestimate your reader. That's one thing, and the key to popular, quote unquote, popular science communication, it's not to be patronizing or disrespectful.
Yes.
Some people confuse popular science with dumbed down science, and I'm not one of those. So I truly understand that anybody interested enough can understand science when properly explained in a respectful way.
I think that's a wonderful philosophy. Respecting your readers is a reflection of your own self-respect. Also, you see almost no ego. It's the last thing I am interested here in proving to you what a big deal I am because I have a PhD and I am an academic and I am a published author. It is, I have an enthusiasm that comes from almost a childlike part of myself. And although some of the subjects I may be dealing in are technical, I am so excited about the possibility of bringing you into an enthusiasm for this subject that I will always write to find the right words to make this not only accessible, but to do so with respect for your intelligence, the same way I would hope you have respect for mine. And it doesn't get any better than that, I think, in scientific writing.
Thank you. I mean, and again, I strongly believe that I'm very lucky I'm fortunate to being able to have followed my dreams. I have met so many people who couldn't even go to college because of health issues, money problems,
Yep.
Things like that. And, bottom line, it doesn't even matter if you're intelligent or not to have value as a person. Okay, so I just happen to be following what I love, what I like. And I mean, we've known each other for a relatively short time, but you will, I think you have a very good sense that with me, what you see is what you get. I mean, it's a double-edged sword because, I cannot pretend. I would be a horrible poker player. So, to give you an example.
You and me both. What you see is what you get. And that's not the way you want to be in poker. In some of the liner notes about drunk flies and stoned dolphins, that for me sums up some of what the reader is in for here. And I very much hope that our viewers and listeners will consider adding this book to their library, or equally good, in some ways better, ask their library to order it so that many people can have access to it in your community. In this book, you get an eye-opening glimpse into the mind-altering behavior of the non-human members of the animal kingdom, spanning insects to elephants, including the dolphin species that apparently likes to pass around an intoxicating pufferfish as though they were sharing a joint. Combining fascinating science with humor and enthusiasm, Pagán's latest is full of the kind of unforgettable stories and odd facts that you'll find yourself repeating to everyone you meet. From fruit fly happy hour to the evolutionary reasons behind nature's drugs, Drunk Flies and Stoned Dolphins takes you on a trip through the colorful world of animal intoxication, and along the way explores what this science reveals about the surprising connections between all the world's creatures.
I promise you I did not write that myself. The publishers did.
Well, having read your book, I think they summed it up very well. And I would like you to take even just a few minutes to tell us a little about one of your favorite stories in the book, or your favorite parts of the book that you came upon and thought, now that I understand this to a degree, I have to share this with people. This is too good not to not tell people about it.
Well, one of my favorite stories in the book has to do with members of my own family, because I don't have grandchildren yet, but we have 2 grandcats. My daughter, she lives nearby. I mean, she moved out of the house, but she lives nearby, and she has 2 cats. And cats are notoriously sensitive to something called catnip. Okay, so that's there's a couple of things. So it's, in my mind, a perfect illustration of how the makeup of an individual in terms of sex, genetics, things like that, are treated differentially by a drug. For example, she has 2 cats, a male and a female. The male, his name is Oné, and it's derived from a Taino Indian, native Indian, named from Puerto Rico. When he gets a catnip-laced toy, he looks, for all intents and purposes, high. Okay? He starts walking very slowly, looking at the ceiling, meowing at some invisible angel, something like that. Okay, so now Elara, which is the female, calico female, she gets a hold of the same toy. She goes ballistic. She starts running around Vanessa's apartment as if she were chased by the most horrible monster. Okay, so that's, again, a perfect illustration of why, if you and I both get the same migraine, God forbid, I may need a certain type of medication, you may need another, or we may need the same medication but at different dosages. Okay, that's an aspect called pharmacogenetics, and this is something that it's beginning to get developed, but we are not quite there yet. But that's one of my favorite stories. That and of course the drunk flies. Want to hear a little bit about that?
Yes, please.
Okay. So did you know? you will hear. This is one of the best ways to pick the attention of a person. Did you know that when male fruit flies, they fail to get female companionship. Okay? They prefer fermented fruit as opposed to fresh fruit. Okay? Just like a broken-hearted man, they get a beard. Okay? So, and I want to make a little interruption, because this topic lends itself to a lot of fun and to, levity. But I am in no way making fun of addiction, people who are suffering from that, because it's a very bad thing for society and for people. Yeah. But
you're drawing a parallel.
Pardon?
You're drawing an important parallel, though.
Exactly. But if we can teach people about addiction, about drugs, and we can have fun with it, fun is a really good source of attention. For example, in a way, I have been trained to talk and write about popular science in some of my courses at the university, because I teach my main thing, pharmacology, to nursing students, bio majors, and the like, and I enjoy it immensely. But I also teach 2 non-majors courses. One of them, who I'm beginning to teach again in this next fall, which I'm very enthusiastic about, and you're gonna love this one. This is about astrobiology. I used to teach that course several years ago with a physicist friend. He will take from the Big Bang until life appeared, and then I took over. Okay, so, but the other course that I teach at the university is biological sciences for non-majors. All right? I get people from literature, philosophy, finance, people who are not interested or even like biology at all, but they have to take the course for a requirement.
Right.
So how do I catch the interest of such people?
Yep.
The did you know thing plays a role, because I'm not reciting, okay, the Krebs cycle is like this. No, I give them, I teach the Krebs cycle, but I give them examples of real life things. Okay? Also, I use humor a lot. I use humor a lot, because we are all conditioned to a few minutes of close attention followed by distractions, commercials, it happens to you, it happens to me. So what my biggest class is about 250 students. When I sense that a significant proportion of them is not quite in the room, if you know what I mean, I crack a dad joke. I do a little dance. They give me courtesy smiles, pity laughs, but I'm able to reset their attention to come back to me.
Yes.
Okay. So, I have been creative. I have been forced to be creative to explain science to the general public. Yes. Okay. In that sense. And I don't know if you have already shown one of the pictures there. I even thought as Darth Vader once. Okay. That was a Halloween, and I did teach by that. Yes.
We will be looking at the photos in the second half that you sent me. You remind me, as somebody who regularly, more recently, of course, since March of last year, most of my public speaking has been digital, in podcasts, seminars online, that kind of thing. But especially in live presentations, I am dealing with material that can be anxiety provoking. And I have learned that mostly from my intensive studies over the decades of the life and work of Dr. Wilhelm Reich, who for me is a paragon of scientific knowledge, that there are really only 2 states of being. There's expansion and there's contraction. We call them many things, fear, love, whatever. But physiologically, you're either kind of drawing in, blood going to the center of the mass, or blood flowing to the surface, more social, that kind of thing. And when I feel an audience, understandably, starting to become anxious because I'm presenting data that is not comfortable, I will try to find, like you, some way of discussing it, even momentarily, that will allow them to laugh, because in laughing, all of a sudden you are expelling air, you're taking in oxygen, you're making contact with your environment, and often the people around you, even if momentarily, sharpening your vision a bit. And then for a period of time after that, you're kind of back into the sharp focus that you were when the talk started. It's just the way it is. And I think being a great teacher, whether it's at the university level or working with kids, and I've taught at every level from first grade through postgraduate, drawing and painting. And you have to walk that line between giving information that is potentially exciting and interesting, but doing it in a way that is almost entertaining. And with that said, before we go to break, I just want to know if there was anything that you wanted to say to kind of sum up this first hour, because indeed we are coming to the end of our first hour here, Oné.
Okay, so maybe three things. To my fellow people who may feel that like at 35 is too late to embark in a new adventure, don't. If you have the means and the desire, do it. Second, you are smart enough to learn whatever the heck you want if you're interested enough. Third, nobody is better than you, but you're no better than anybody either.
Amen. This is Peter Robbins on Meanwhile Here on Earth with my special guest tonight, Dr. Oné R Pagán, and we will be back in about 3 minutes. Stay with us.
Hello, I'm Tony Rathman, one of the hosts of KGRA's Monday night show called Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence. If you have not had the opportunity to see this show, I'd like to take this opportunity to invite you. We cover fantastic paranormal evidence captured by our Entity Voices team, as well as bringing on experienced and up-and-coming investigators who share with us incredible paranormal captures.
This one I will let you give an intro to, because this actually was in a castle, and this one is titled Energy.
Oh, okay. I was in a place, my favorite castle in Scotland. It's called Balgony Castle. Beautiful place, and as a matter of fact, it's going to be one of the places we ghost on the tour. Everybody was talking, and we had a Frank's box there, an actual Frank's box sitting there, and everybody was talking. And finally, I just asked a question, and we got a pretty good answer.
Here is that clip. I love this one. This one's awesome. Here it is.
Is there anything in the castle that we should be afraid of?
The energy.
Wow, that's the energy.
You know what I love about that one is the response is right after the question. So timing to it. The relevance of it is not only answering the question, answering it appropriately. You asked, is there anything to be afraid of? It clearly said the energy. The other thing I love is it has
an accent.
I don't want to pick which European accent, but there is an accent. So let me play that one more time.
So it's definitely a Scottish accent. Definitely.
Okay. Here it is again.
Is there anything in the castle that we should be afraid of?
The energy.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
What's even more amazing about that is
watch us live on KGRADB.com on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific Time. As a special bonus, if you enjoy Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence and would like to support the show and the entire KGRA network of shows, please use promo code 21
EVPE, to receive a 30% yearly discount to Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence and the entire network of shows on KGRA. Thank you, and we hope to see you in the chat room Monday nights for Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence, and don't forget, stay haunted.
Hi there and welcome back. This is Peter Robbins and Juno, the official Meanwhile here on Earth Cat, with Dr. Oné R Pagán on tonight's edition of the show. Welcome back, Oné.
Thank you.
And this is a creature from the natural world, one very much like the ones you were discussing earlier.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd like to begin with some pictures that you sent, and we'll talk a bit about them. This gentleman is Dr. Oné R Pagán. I think you are familiar with him. And so is this gentleman in the top part of the picture, but without the degree at this point, I'm guessing.
That was, I'm on my dad's shoulders. That was in Puerto Rico, and oh man, beautiful picture.
It's a wonderful picture.
Yeah. Oh,
this is actually a out of sequence, but your various alma maters.
Yes, the places where I did either my formal degrees or I work or where I was trained. Yes.
And two wonderful pictures here.
Yes, those are my children, Vanessa, Reynaldo, and Andy. And at the lower part of the picture, that's Ginger, our dog. I have to go full disclosure, and I have to confess that I was the typical dad that said, I don't want dogs in the house. Never again. No. So, well.
How did that work out?
We got a dog. Well, at the beginning, we didn't like each other. Ginger growled at me. I growled back at her. But now she's mine. You can ask my wife.
So,
okay, that's a good one. On top, that's my very first research group in 2006. Look at how nice and brown my beard was at the time. Yeah, those three young ladies are full-fledged professionals nowadays. One of them is a PhD at a pharmaceutical company. One is a nurse, and the third one is a neurologist.
Wow.
And how proud I am of those ladies. And I try to take a picture of my lab every year. The last one that I have is 2018 at the bottom.
Yeah.
Because in 2019, I couldn't take it, and then COVID came. But
sure.
Between those two, just to give you an idea, about 60 research students, a bunch of papers, various publications. And I like saying that the Pagán Lab has been mentoring women and minorities in science before it was cool.
That is something to be very proud of, my friend. Yeah. I try to follow in those footsteps in terms of people occasionally honoring me by asking me to mentor them or do everything I can to encourage more women in the field of UFO studies, because as usual, in almost every area of human endeavor, they have to work twice as hard to get half the recognition.
Absolutely.
And often have more than smarts than the male equivalents to do the same job even better.
Yes, and in science, that's very prevalent. Okay, there's this thing that, women cannot do science, women cannot, and that's just BS. That's nonsense.
You better believe it.
Yeah. Yes, I have thought by that, like that. that was on Halloween. And I actually went to the stage in a very solemn way. I took the microphone and I did the Darth Vader breathe, like, and I said something like, "Your lack of knowledge of biology disturbs me."
There you go. That is the gift of a truly inspired and inspiring teacher. So we're going to come back to the planarian shortly,
Yes.
but this is a wonderful model to show this monster animal that you have developed all this research model around.
Yep. To give you an idea of their size and how they regenerate.
Boy.
Within a week, they can regenerate a new head and therefore a new brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at here?
Okay, so at the top left is a bunch of heads, planarian heads. They're not dead because the heads will keep swimming happily and eventually they will regenerate a whole body.
Wow.
And at right, there's a headless body which will regenerate a new head eventually. Sometimes there are anomalies that occur. Just like in any organism, there's developmental pathways that can get disrupted. A planarian with 3 eyes, a planarian with 2 heads, things like that.
What do these tiny creatures draw sustenance from?
They're carnivores. They're hunters, actually. I have seen them wrap themselves around tiny water fleas like a snake, and they suck them dry. And they will happily eat each other, given the chance.
Well, that makes your food supply a little more nearby if you're in a crowd.
Yes, I'm just happy that they're small.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Okay,
by the way, I have to tell people,
okay,
you must visit Oné's website. It is really, it's fascinating, it's informative, but it's also at times surprisingly very funny. For me, the highest form of humor is self-deprecating humor, where you can have fun at your own expense rather than other people's. And you are very good at taking it out of yourself rather than inflicting it on somebody else.
I completely agree. And that represents the beginning of my popular science communication adventure. Because when I got the itch to write for a popular audience, I didn't know the first thing about it. I was well-versed writing technical papers and stuff like that. But then I educated myself and everybody advised to begin blogging. Okay, and that's what I did. And the first few blog posts were, again, horrible. And I left them there for, to keep me honest. But I got a little better. And I write about a bunch of things, pharmacology, being a parent of an autistic young man, things like that.
You also have a surprisingly interesting section on UFOs, but from a very scientific perspective, incredibly open-minded, but not one that the huge number of people who seem to be more and more interested in this subject every day are usually exposed to. It's a very healthy point of view and a good one for a lot of people to embrace, whether or not they feel they're very experienced in the work or they're new to it. So baldscientist.com for any number of reasons. And this wonderful illustration.
I began podcasting in 2020, in big part because of the pandemic too. Because everybody was on lockdown, everybody was, I was teaching online. The only people I saw in 3D was my family. Uh-huh. And all of us had, coping mechanisms to do that. And I began to, listen to podcasts. And that's part of the reason why I met you, because I listened regularly to Ryan Sprague's podcast, Somewhere in the Skies. I've read his book, both editions, and I reviewed it. And then a few months ago, there was this episode titled Meanwhile Here on Earth. Okay. And I said, what was that? So, and there was this gentleman talking about it, and I became his fan. and here we are. And then just last night, I learned that the person who actually recommended me to your show was Ryan Sprague.
Exactly.
So, yeah, checks in the mail, buddy.
Yes, thank you, Ryan. No question about it. This kind of blew my mind. I mean, you are hardcore. We don't usually think of scientists as, having tats. And this one obviously is an equation. Will you tell us about this and whether or not you have any others hidden about your person?
Oh, well, I can tell you I don't have any others.
Okay.
But the story is quite interesting. The actual figure is a compound that I use in my research. And that has a certain background too, because my daughter, she wanted to get a tattoo. And we have toyed with the idea. So she made the appointment and she wanted me to go with her for support. And a few days, I forget, before her appointment, she said, "Well, Dad, why don't you get one too?" And I was like, okay. And I thought about it. This compound means a lot to me. And it's there. And I like saying, and I say it everywhere, that if this is a reflection of a midlife crisis thing, it's cheaper than a sports car and safer than a motorcycle. So,
Yeah, very true. Was this a decision you came to on your own, or did you run it by your wife first?
Oh, no. My wife and I, we've talked about getting tattoos at some point.
Okay.
But there's two things that I want to say. The first one is, again, this is science communication.
I love it.
Because when people see it, I have began conversations. Oh, what's that? And I begin talking about it. Second, the cutest thing. I got this tattoo about 2 years ago. I was 54 at the time. Okay, I'm 56 now. My mom got mad at me.
Oh, no.
For the longest time, she would refuse to talk to me about the tattoo. And it was really cute because here I am, a bald old man, 54 years old, and that was cute. That was cute.
Hardcore punk headbanger type.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. And writing about drugs.
Well, it's just one more step before you're in the big house, I guess. Show it. Take another look at the tattoo here, okay. And if you would, in lay terms, tell us a little about what we're seeing here going on.
Okay, that compound is called parthenolite, and it's the active ingredient of a plant called feverfew. And they use that plant in folk remedies against migraine, as an anti-inflammatory, applications like that. So when I was in Puerto Rico, I worked with a similar compounds against local anesthetics. Okay, but I didn't think anything more about that. When I moved to Ithaca, I was working on cocaine in a cell line. All right. I was browsing a chemical catalog and I recognized the structure as being similar to the ones that I work with in Puerto Rico. So I hypothesized that if my compounds in Puerto Rico interacted with local anesthetics, cocaine is a local anesthetic, this compound should interact with cocaine in animals. And it does in planaria and in rats. Oh, I want to clarify, I always do this. I don't store cocaine in my laboratory. It's under lock and key. I don't have the code. It simplifies my life.
And you can't just go to the person with the code and say, I want to do some personal research on my brain. Would you give me that jar, please, for a while? I may be back. I don't know.
That will get me in real trouble, tenure or not. Yeah.
Boy, academia can be such a bitch.
Oh, did you know? There's a couple of things there. Some of them we have already discussed. The drunk male fruit flies.
Right.
But you didn't know that female fruit flies, they use alcohol as a chemical defense for their eggs. Okay? So the eggs of many types of species of Drosophila, the fruit fly, they are highly resistant to alcohol concentrations. Okay. Is he paying attention? No. No, I know. So the eggs of fruit flies are highly resistant to alcohol. So when they lay their eggs in fermented fruits with high content of alcohol, that alcohol protects the eggs against other predators like wasps, things like that. So, I mean, how cool is that?
Very, very. Again, that simpler creatures are able to arrive at this knowledge and solutions and then deploy it. It can be a little humbling because we human beings have this habit of thinking we are way, way up on the phylogenetic scale, when in fact, some of us, not so much.
I hear you. So the cool thing about it is that as much as I would like to say that I was the first to make this connection, there's many others who did. Particularly a person called Ronald Siegel, who wrote a book titled Intoxication. And he gave like a bunch of examples of this in animals. But he also did some experiments of his own, not only on himself, but he actually tried and did get elephants drunk. Okay? He would drive a Jeep with a metal drum, with alcohol to give the elephants. Okay, what's more dangerous than an angry bull elephant? A drunk, angry bull elephant. So Siegel actually proposed a controversial hypothesis that made the equivalency of the intoxication instinct on par to the instinct for survival, the instinct for feeding, the instinct for reproduction. But I don't agree too much with that because, for example, a person who's under addiction, okay, many people can kick habits like that, and it's not life-threatening. So it's not as fundamental as thirst or feeding or reproduction. You see what I mean?
I'd like to get back to your books.
Okay.
First, let's take a quick look here. I believe this is your first published book.
Yes.
On the planarians. By the way, I also really admire the designer. These people, of course, this is their specialty. Almost always they are supplied by the publisher themselves. Mm-hmm. Also, that you have not only been published by the publisher who you are now working with, which is
Bembella.
Right. Oxford University Press published your first book. That is such a compliment to your work. And, that is, in the world of academia, that's a high status to have.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm as surprised as you are because when I decided to embark in this adventure, I don't have an agent. I didn't have an agent. I still don't. Oh, if you have a listener who's an agent that is willing to take me on, just, call my people. And by my people, I mean me. But the point is that I wrote the proposal, I sent it, and they picked it up.
They sure did.
And that's also a popular science book, but it's just that I use planarians as an excuse to explain brain science and pharmacology.
Yeah. And moving on to your second book, another title and another cover that completely was attention-getting, How Organisms Attract and Defend in the Game of Life. And we're going to come back to this. Yes. Again, as mentioned previously, drunk flies and stone dolphins. And what I would like to do now is just get back on track here and make some introductory remarks taken by your publisher on Strange Survivors, How Organisms Attack and Defend in the Game of Life. In the evolutionary arms race that has raged on since life began, organisms have developed an endless variety of survival strategies, from sharp claws to brute strength, camouflage to venom. All these tools and abilities share one purpose: to keep their bearer alive long enough to reproduce, helping the species avoid extinction. Every living thing on this planet has developed a time-tested arsenal of weapons and defenses. Some of these weapons and defenses, however, are decidedly more unusual than others. In this book, Oné R Pagán takes us on a tour of the improbable, the ingenious, and the just plain bizarre ways that some creatures fight for life. Inside this funny, fascinating field guide to nature's most colorful characters, you'll meet killer snails, social bacteria, and an animal with toxic elbows. But Strange Survivors is more than a collection of curiosities. It is a love letter to science and an argument for the continuing relevance of this evolutionary battle as we face the threat of resistant bacteria, the need for novel medical therapies. Whether discussing blood-thinning bats and electric fish, or pondering the power of cooperation, Pagán reveals the surprising lessons found in some of the life's most natural oddities and how the tactics they employ to live might aid our own survival. A wonderful description of what is really the body of this body of work. Once again, how did you decide to focus, or why did you decide to focus on this area of natural studies and not something else?
Well, the problem for me is what I don't like, to figure out what I don't like about science and the universe. It's a blessing and a curse. It's the proverbial so many books, so little time. That's the way I feel about science and the natural world in particular, because there's in the tiniest little thing, there can be, again, an endless source of fascination that has it's not easy to describe. And when you do, for example, research, and when you're sure that you're the very first person who actually discovers that parthenolite interacts with planarian, okay, it's an indescribable feeling, okay? And not only that, when you do that with students who are as committed and as enthusiastic about it as you, again, that you cannot buy that kind of thing. And right now I still have a talented group of undergraduate and graduate students in my laboratory with whom I bounce ideas with back and forth. They are my colleagues because that's what they are. I expect them to learn and to be as enthusiastic about these things as I am. And I expect them to develop their own ideas. And nothing makes me prouder than when they are able to write a paper on their own.
Yeah. Let's go into the body of this book and look at some of the more memorable characters that you bring to our attention, and some of the extraordinarily surprising, unusual, shocking ways that they continue on with defenses and mannerisms that would blow most people's minds.
So probably the most unexpected one was the world's first described toxic primate. Okay, and when I teach this in class, I make the lame joke about ex-boyfriends and stuff like that. But it's predictable at this point. But there's a type of animal called the slow loris, Lores, IS. And they are deceptively cute animals. They have really big eyes. They look like a stuffed animal, but they are deceptively peaceful. They're mean. They are. You cannot put two of them in the same cage because they will kill each other. Okay, so they have at the underside of their arms, more or less by the elbows, a patch that exudes. It's like a sweat gland, a modified sweat gland that exudes a toxic substance. What they do is that they lick the gland, they coat their teeth with that, and then they actually, when they attack each other or defend themselves, it's like a toxin. It's actually very similar to a particularly powerful allergen from cats. You know, the people who are violently allergic to cats, that it's on the similar chemical family. The actual babies of the slow loris are more toxic than the parents in that sense. That's probably the most unusual example. One of my favorite examples are venomous snails, cone snails. I used to work many years ago with compounds called conotoxins from cone snails. These are not particularly fast snails, mind you. There's no such thing as a fast snail. But some families of these snails are able to actively hunt, and eat fish. Okay? The way they do it is that, let's suppose that this is a snail. They extend like a little trunk, and they wiggle it like a worm. So the fish comes, and they inject it with a paralyzing toxin. That within 2 seconds, the fish is done.
Wow.
And then they extend like their mouths, and then they eat a fish. And the even more mind-blowing thing about these cone snails is that their venoms are a source of medications nowadays. Yeah. One of them, it's a derivative of a cone snail venom, who is used for people with otherwise intractable pain. You know that in many cases, cancer, it's a horrible disease and it's very painful to the person. And usually the first line of defense against pain is morphine. But people develop tolerance for morphine, and eventually depresses breathing with everything that it entails. So there's this cone snail venom component that is an analgesic compound, and there's no need for morphine. So that's just to give an example.
So going back to the first creature,
okay,
this highly poisonous material that exudes from, the equivalent of their elbow, they are in so many words immune to it because they can lick it, they can have it in their mouth, they can put it on their teeth, but they are not subject to its toxicity.
Unless it gets in their bloodstream. Because when they bite each other, they can mess each other up.
Got it.
Actually, I would hope that somebody calls that the elbow toxin. I wrote it in the book, but it hasn't catch on yet.
So let's go to one other creature situation that you would like people to know about, that either was so ironic to you when you stumbled on it that you felt, this is something I want to know more about. I want to be able to communicate it so other people are aware of this extraordinary dynamic in this particular creature.
Let's talk about the bee ball. The bee ball. Okay. There's, the honeybees, the ones that are around us, and they produce honey and all these type of things. The Japanese version of the honeybee, they have a very specialized predator, which is it's called a bee killer. It's a hornet, like this big, and when they get into the beehive, they massacre them.
Oh my!
But certain Japanese bees, they have developed this behavior that when a hornet goes there to attack the colony, they form like a bunch, like hundreds of bees around the hornet. And then they begin to beat their wings in unison. They raise the temperature of the interior of the ball and increase the carbon dioxide, and they kill the hornet. How? So, I mean,
wow.
Exactly.
I have never heard or imagined of anything quite like that in the animal world. That's
yes. I mean, it's survival. It's survival, and that brings me to a very important point. Actually, I didn't think about it, but it fits perfectly. Cooperation. Okay.
And this is only in this variant of the honeybee found in Japan?
Yeah, that's so far what it's found. I wouldn't be surprised if it would be evolved in several other places. Yeah.
Wow. You have been bringing up planarians. Again, we saw a relative close-up of a planarian laid across a penny. It is a very small creature. You have talked about the fact that it can cut into pieces, and each piece of it can regenerate a full and complete organism.
Yes.
That they will eat each other or any other bit of protein that happens to make the mistake of coming close to them. So, it's pretty constant source of foods, but that, as put here, they are also unique among invertebrates in that they display addiction-like behavior to many drugs abused by humans. Because of this distinct neurological traits, the planarian is often used as an animal model in neurological research, being used most recently for development in neuropharmacology. Let's get a definition from you of neuropharmacology.
It's essentially the pharmacology of the nervous system. When we get a headache and we take an aspirin, that's part of neuropharmacology. It alleviates a response, painful response. But usually neuropharmacology is also associated with changes in behavior brought about by compounds, including but not limited to addiction.
I am quite amazed about, obviously I've only read your one book, read liner notes and parts of your other books. One I was able to take out of our local library. The first brings discussion of how planarians have been used in neuropharmacology and what role they have played in scientific developments. Can you talk about some of what is happening in the laboratory in analyzing the behavior of these little creatures and applying what we're learning to ideally helping people with addiction? I had never before thought about, people who wrestle with drug addiction or alcoholism, that there was a possible key to assisting them in such a seemingly simple creature.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's you wouldn't think so, but that's part of the beauty of science. Before we go into that, we have a question here. Is that similar to opioids and our brains? It's similar, but not exactly the same. But what we do, for example, in my laboratory, is that we give them, nicotine. All right. I forgot to mention that the planarians that I work with are freshwater worms.
There are seawater ones as well?
Oh yes, and those are called polyclads, and they are the most beautiful worms that you can see. They're colorful. I can't talk till the cows come home, but about them. But what we do is that we put nicotine in the water. We leave nicotine there for a while. We take nicotine away from it. And then they go in, for all intents and purposes, withdrawal. They begin shaking. They get the shakes. They swim like crazy, like corkscrewing. Okay, they anchor themselves to the bottom to the floor of the dish. They go like this, like a cobra, and begin to look around. Okay, so we can quantify those behaviors, and by quantifying those behaviors, we can hit them with compounds to take away those behaviors. That's what parthenolite does with cocaine in behaviorally. But another aspect is toxicity, because one thing is to be poisoned by an abused drug and another one to be addicted to. Sadly, for example, a first-time drug user has a higher chance of being poisoned than a person who's used to it. Okay, so those are two different aspects of it. Addiction is very complex because we can get addicted to anything, not necessarily chemical in nature. But toxicity is another matter.
Now, one of the other things I learned, even just basic reading about this book, is that these planarians have played a key role, not just in contemporary research, but in historical research. Do you know when that started and who it was and how it was discovery of these creatures and their behavior and this remarkable ability to regenerate from just chopped up pieces of their own bodies, when this was first discovered and began to be, looked at seriously?
Well, probably people have known about this for millennia, but the first person that I saw something written about in that sense was Charles Darwin himself.
Oh.
In his voyages, that man did everything. Okay, in biology speaking. So he described actually how he collected specimens, and he just offhandedly, I cut them up and they grew back. Okay, and of course, 200 years ago or so, there was no notion of molecular biology or anything like that, but that didn't matter to him. I always thought that Darwin would be a blogger, a podcaster, a radio host, because he was that kind of person.
Yeah.
So, but that was Darwin. And then later on, people began to play with them, cutting them in many different ways, like longitudinally, like this and like this and like this, creating like a hydra with multiple heads. Okay, actually, the Japanese have a very strong tradition of playing and investigating in planarians. So that's and again, what's not to like? I mean, those things are beautiful.
They really are. Everything that you say brings up a bunch of questions in different areas, and I want to move on at this point to a subject that is usually, in one way or the other, the subject of this show. The UFO question, what they are, why they're here, what they're about, implications for humanity, but often not looked at from an analytical, scientific perspective. As you and I know, up until a few years ago, within the world of academia, certainly politics, the sciences, the media, to be caught taking even the possibility seriously that there were truly anomalous UFO phenomena that could not be explained in conventional terms, whether they were from points unknown out in the cosmos or from a different dimension or what have you. The potential for ridicule wasn't just embarrassing or humiliating, it could bring down careers. And many fine scientific minds, people in the media, people in public life, as well as, choose your field, chose to stay silent on it. The climate is changing now. And we were talking just yesterday, just chatting on the phone, and one of the things that came up was an academic who over the past months has become very prominent in this. And his attitude to me, although I didn't question him on that particular thing, is he could care less what other people in academia or in the world think about the work that he is doing. And that is Professor Avi Loeb, distinguished astronomy professor at Harvard, which just by virtue of the gravitas of invoking that particular university, college, bastion of education, that he has been involved in a now more and more well-known project, very focused, certainly not even interested in looking into more exotic aspects of the subject, which I understand and respect. We need more and more people like him and you who are willing to just say, I am open to this. There is something going on, and I am willing to look at it from any number of points of view. So with that said, let me just read basic remarks from you on your website at your beginning of how you begin to address this subject. I am a hopeful agnostic about them. I have people very close to me who I trust implicitly, who have experienced strange things, and I have no reason to think I'm being lied to I have the arrogance to dismiss what they have experienced as nonsense. To me, this means that even though there are liars out there, not everyone is lying about these things. I do not think anybody knows exactly what these objects are. Although a skeptic, not a debunker, God forbid, by training and temperament, I am comfortable with the idea that we do not know everything about this majestic universe of ours. So with that as a starter point, when was it in your life or career, maybe even in a science fiction way as a young person, or as you were studying, gaining your degrees, or later in life, that you first turned any attention at all to the subject of UFOs, what now more and more referred to as UAPs, and originally flying saucers?
Well, in a way, I've interested in those type of things all my life too, because it's very directly related to my fascination for science. I would pick up any book sciencey related, and some of those were books on the topics that we are referring to. And what you describe in what I wrote is exactly how I feel, because Carl Sagan used to say, have an open mind, but not so open that your brains will fall off.
Oh, very important quote.
Yeah, but I would like, maybe somebody has complimented in the way that I'm going to describe it, but you shouldn't keep such a closed mind to prevent the entry of new ideas and new perspectives.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, as I said there's going to be liars. There's going to be dishonest people, and there are everywhere. But it's very hard for me to believe that everybody is lying about this type of things.
Yeah.
A pet peeve that I have is a pet peeve that I feel very strongly about, is that when they say, well, military pilots are equally as prone to delusion as everyone. I don't know, but in my view, they don't give like $100 million fighter jet, okay, to someone on account of money, nepotism, or connections. They give those things to highly trained people, okay, who need to make split-second decisions, okay, as a matter of life and death. Okay, so that's undeniable. And people, because it would be easy to say, okay, a person in the fields of, I don't know, Idaho, or I'm just making this up. He saw a light that couldn't identify. Okay, so that's anecdotal. Okay, so and that's okay. But I mean, to say that every single time historically, you know this field way better than I'll ever do, because I've become more deeply interested lately. But the proverbial weather balloons, the swamp gas, you cannot tell me that a fighter pilot wouldn't be able to distinguish between a weather balloon.
Of course.
You know, what they are, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. That they are, it's undeniable. There's something out there that we don't understand.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
For me, in the hyper-specific world of UFO studies that I've inhabited for a lot of my life, I know enough to know how little I actually know, and could bring into, an allegorical court of law and establish beyond reasonable doubt. I do know from common sense, logic, deductive reasoning that we are certainly not alone in a universe that is probably teeming with different kinds of life. That, once again, a lot of study, deductive reasoning, critical analysis suggests to me that some UFO phenomena are advanced, highly advanced technology, under intelligent control, coming and going from parts unknown with impunity for reasons of their own. Others may be related to a dimensional reality, representatives of which may be sitting in your office right now, and in my study, enjoying our conversation very much, a dimension or two away. But that, again, in the world of what I'll call official science, it has been so interesting to me how fear of ridicule, which was implanted culturally in 1947 in a way that was brilliantly realized, and only the last few years that we're beginning to work our way out of it, that, for the scientific mind, and I've used this analogy many times in the past, but I'll do it again. Let's say that you and I are friends and neighbors, and we run into each other on the street, and you say to me, Peter, I saw the most interesting thing yesterday afternoon or last night. I was walking the dog or playing with my kids or starting the barbecue, and I looked up and I saw this thing or these things that were behaving in a manner that I have never seen anything like in the atmosphere. They were as small as stars and zigzagging around. It was as big as 2 aircraft carriers end to end. They did things that, as a layperson, I know aerodynamically nothing can do. They made no noise. And I wonder what it or they was. Now, in a logical, grounded, sensible, basic world, I would probably say or think, gee, Oné, that's really interesting. I wonder too. Agreed?
I would say so. Yeah, that's how I feel.
So how is it that you and I and our parents, and for some listeners, their grandparents, have grown up in a world where if somebody were to say that, this is what I experienced and saw, and I wonder what they were, you immediately bypass the simple question and go, what's wrong with Oné? Is he mentally ill? Is he want to feel special? Does he think that this will get him attention that he is lacking in his life? Does he want to lead a cult? Does he feel he wants to write a book and make money on it from this allegation that he wants to be on television? None of it makes any sense. Wilhelm Reich had a wonderful phrase called evasion of the obvious. And the obvious here is that we are dealing with something else again. In the brief notes that I read here, I encourage everybody to visit baldscientist.com, Oné's website, to see for themselves not just the myriad of subjects that he talks on with such enthusiasm that generates immediate interest for you or your kids. I mean, he speaks to everybody. These goes out of his way to not to not use language to get in the way of what he is saying, but to use it to bring you closer. His remarks and thoughts on the UFO phenomena are, they are not exotic, spectacular, outrageous. They are extremely grounded and extremely logical. And I think a breath of fresh air, especially for those of us that spend a good part of our time in the outer reaches of theories and discussions and dueling, experts, if such a thing exists, and the like. In your life, you allude to, but are there people in your family or in your circle of friends who have had what they feel are profoundly life-changing or very unforgettable UFO sightings or incidents?
Both, actually. I obviously cannot tell the names and everything because
I wouldn't ask you to.
So, but yeah, and it goes to the same thing. I personally haven't seen anything as far as I know. Okay, but I have to tell you, I would love to see a black triangle, for example. Okay, but that may be a case of be careful what you wish for. Okay, so that's one thing. But I have no reason to believe that these people are lying to me. I know they're not lying to me. Arthur C. Clarke said that there's only 2 possibilities. Either we are out alone in the universe or we are not, and both possibilities are equally terrifying.
Yes, it's a wonderful quote.
Yes.
Even in the past few decades, even the most recalcitrant, skeptical, even debunking astronomer must begrudgingly admit that there are probably tens of millions of stars out there, approximately the size of our sun, with tens of millions of planets about the size of our Earth, about the same distance that we are from our sun, giving rise to two possibilities. If one is a person of faith and theologically minded, that we have the basic possibility of the miracle of God's creation and firmament to take place, replicate itself on that distant planet, warmed by that star that we have here on Earth. If you are looking at it in a completely scientific, dispassionate way, that we have, based on those factors, the basic building blocks to produce that primordial ooze that created the potential for that first one-celled animal to split in half and get the whole thing going. So it's when I hear, not so much anymore, but earlier in my work, that no, we're it. The rest of the universe is dead air, folks. There ain't nothing going on out there. You know, I could laugh, but with a certain amount of amazement and sadness, and almost as silly for me was, all right, I will concede, maybe there's one other life form out there. It's like, are you kidding me? I am sure that if we are being visited, and I think I am concluded they are many years ago, based on much evidence that I have seen that a lot of people have not, that there are probably a whole number of them that come and go with thoughts, feelings, relationships with humanity that vary as wildly as our relationships with each other. And that some of them may genuinely, I believe, care about and hope that they can maybe even assist us in evolving and getting a handle on the mess we have created here with overpopulation, leading to, in great part, planetary climate change that is bad for us all, and other ones who maybe wish we would extinguish ourselves and that real estate here could regenerate because they have their own relationship with this wonderful blue-green speck of dust flying through space at 30,000 miles an hour. Or we are somebody's graduate experiment gone horribly wrong, and somebody needs to up their grade by coming back and correcting it. What do you think, Dr. Pagán?
I know that I know nothing, but I'm deeply interested. But what you describe is a very biological thought, because in every society, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Why would it be different from something coming from out there?
Yeah. So. You know, on that note, believe it or not, we have come to the end of our time, my friend.
Thank you ever so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure and honor, and I had a lot of fun.
It has been my pleasure and honor, too. And from the remarks in the chat room, I think I can safely say our audience has enjoyed this 2 hours as much as we have. This is Meanwhile Here on Earth on KGRA Digital Broadcasting with Peter Robbins. My special guest tonight has obviously been Dr. Oné Pagán. His website is Bald Scientist, baldscientist.com. Do not miss it. Our guest next week is Dr. Irina Scott, Assistant Professor, Department of Biology at St. Bonaventure University, who has worked in related fields, was a correspondent for Popular Mechanics, a volunteer astronomer at Ohio State University Radio Observatory, as well as participated in UFO investigations for the Defense Intelligence Agency, Center for UFO Studies, and that is just for starters, folks. If you have enjoyed the show, please tell your friends. See you next week, same time, same station. Stay well, stand up for what you believe in, and be kind to each other.